Hello, everyone. Welcome to May 5th, 2025, to the Suze Maclaine Pont show, where I am talking with my beautiful husband, Jakko Smit, about trauma. And today we're going to talk about trauma as a tool for change. Now, there's a very, very interesting backstory to that. And to start off that backstory, the first thing I wanted to talk about is last week we missed an episode. That is actually a lot to do with change, with life being change in every form, right? A lot of people have this idea that we need to create stability, that we need to create a stable basis, that we need to create security and certainty, that once we have everything together, then we can navigate change. But the interesting thing is, if you look at life, there's nothing stable about it. Life is constant change. There is constant change happening, even though certain things look in place. Now, why did we miss an episode last week? That had everything to do with change. I went to a nomad base camp last week in Tarifa in the south of Spain, the very, very most southern point of Europe, maybe even. Not so sure. Anyway, it's right across Morocco. And I was there and I was speaking and delivering a workshop at the Nomad Base Experience in Tarifa. And on my way to there, I decided to make a road trip out of that because I had this whole event planned for a year. And at a certain point, I thought it would be fun to bring my son. And not just fun, also need an assistant when I'm in a big group just to make sure that the connections are made properly and that everything that I do is being supported. So I always bring a person. And this time I brought my 19-year-old son. And he's moving out somewhere as soon as he can find his own living space. So I thought, let's take him to this nomad base camp and let's make a road trip out of it. Let's not fly. Let's take a camper van and drive all the way to the south of Spain, which is a 24-hour drive. But we're not going to drive it in 24 hours. We're going to drive it in 3 days. That was the plan. We had everything planned out and we had prepared for it. Saturday morning, we're about to leave. Battery of the car died. Like, oh, okay. First sign of change, right? Hey, that's interesting. Let's fix the battery first. We're still very optimistic. We called car services. Long story short, at a certain point, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we could leave. We drove, and I thought, you know what? Let's stop somewhere south of Paris. We had a beautiful first night. Then we went to Spain. Really nice, everything on track. And I thought, you know what? Let's not get petrol at this station. Let's get our gas or our petrol at the next station. We arrive at the next station. Power blackout in all of Spain. The entire country had an incredible power blackout. You might have read that on the news somewhere, to the point where we couldn't get petrol anymore. We were forced to stay in that place. There was no internet, there was no electricity, nothing worked. So I thought, you know what, let's surrender into this, enjoy the road trip. My son is 19 and he wanted to get me to the south of Spain because that was the plan and they were expecting me. And I said, yeah, they're expecting us on Monday evening, but you know what? We're not going to get there because it's Monday evening now and we're stuck here without gas. So we need to allow this change that it's thrown out over us to guide us. Benjamin had a hard time dealing with that. So he said, no, we need to fix it. I said, yeah, we can't fix this. We can't. This is change that we cannot fight because there's no use in getting angry. So let's enjoy it. Let's go for a walk in nature. It's beautiful here. The second we decided to let go and go for a walk, turns out that the right side of the car, the window had broken and we couldn't put it back up. Meaning that now all of a sudden we were stuck in the south of Spain with a car window that wouldn't go up again. Not a complete problem as long as it's not raining, but you never know what the weather might do. Besides which, now we couldn't leave the car unattended anymore. So Benjamin was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll just get there. We had to get this fixed. So it took us another 24 hours to get the car window fixed to make sure that everything was back in place. And dealing with these kinds of changes, the interesting thing is it sounds like, oh, it's just reasonable. There's nothing to get worked up about because, hey, you know what? It doesn't really matter if you get angry or not. That's not going to change the facts. No, it doesn't. But the interesting thing is, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is um, I am the complete center of calm in these kinds of storms. My son is the complete center of everything is going to crap. We need to get you here. And he was really worked up and frustrated and angry. And he started projecting that anger onto me. And that's totally fine. I can deal with all of that. But that's not the way I was wired from day one. Or maybe it was, I'm not sure. I actually learned to deal with this through allowing change to heal my trauma. So, one of the things, I'm just going to finish the story before I talk about this with Yakko. One of the things I've learned in my life is that there is always something being worked out on a level that I can't fully see yet, but I know it's there. So I have a deep trust now that I'm 50, in the fact that as long as I'm not being sent back, and as long as, and even then, I have a deep trust in life because I know that life is working for me and never against me. Now, it turns out I was constantly putting messages whenever I had a slightest bit of signal, which wasn't that often, but I would send a message to the organization that was waiting for me in Tarifa about what was happening, where I was, sending a picture here and there of, hey guys, we're stuck with the window down and stuff like that. My mind made a whole story of that, of nobody's responding to my messages. Are they getting them? Do people now know? And I thought, you know what? I'm sending them. That's all I can do right now, which is true. But I didn't have a clue what was going on at the other end. I just had a deep trust in that the right thing was going to happen. Now, what was happening when we arrived in Tarifa, ultimately on Wednesday evening, so 2 days late, we arrived there, we had pizza in a restaurant, and all kinds of people started to come up to me saying, hey, you're the crazy lady who was sending these messages and came down in a camper van, right? And said, yes, I am. They said, yeah, we were following you. We loved your updates about where you were and about what was going on and what was happening. Turns out I drove to the south of Spain to connect with people. The road trip was the connection. Instead of me needing to be there, needing to connect, I was already connecting. Now, this is a level of trust that change can actually help you get if we allow it. That's what we're going to talk about. So, this was an 8.5 minute introduction so that my husband and I can now talk about how does this work. Yakko, go ahead.
Now, the title of this episode is can be read or understood in at least two meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma as a tool for change. So, if I work on my trauma or I accept it or whatever, then it's possible for me to change my life. So that's one.
Yes.
And the version you told us was okay. I This is more about how to cope with change in the world, change in your situation, change in your expectations about what's happening, and have trust in that it's good for whatever. So that it is working for you.
Yes. And that's interesting because you're right. A lot of people think if I can just work through my trauma, then I can be able to change. What I have learned in life is that actually, by allowing the change that life is bringing you to point you to where you're triggered, to point you to where all of this disruption is happening, you find the places where you can still rebuild nervous systems, rebuild brain centers. So instead of fighting change because it's unsafe, I've learned that change creates the safety if we allow it. So if I look back at my story about frustration on when things change without us asking, and by the way, life is always changing, right? In the moment where we think we have it together, something changes. That is the nature of life. The nature of life is change. From day one, from when we're born, we're changing constantly, constantly changing. Our body's changing, our brain is changing, our words are changing, our thoughts are changing, our environment is changing. The nature of life is change. If we allow that change, life is bringing us into the exact situations that are helping us to grow a stronger internal vessel. And that internal vessel will help us to navigate life better. So there's a constant change being brought from the outside, and then trauma, lack of nervous system wiring, stuff being triggered inside of us. If we allow that to build a vessel that is better able for the change that is coming next, then all of this starts to work together. Life is providing change. We build a better vessel so that we can sail better, so that we have a stronger vessel, and ultimately bring all of the light of God that we are supposed to bring into this life in the best and biggest way. So if I say trauma as a tool for change, what I mean is actually um, that our trauma will allow us to reveal the vessel that we are, even. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so, but why trauma in this case? Because it sounds like it's trusting that the change is not against you, but it's just there, and you can, like, it's a wave, you can go with the wave towards a certain point and trusting that it brings you in a good place.
Yes,
And what has this to do with trauma then? Is it just it's just trust?
it's just trust. Yeah, except we have to build that trust. So I agree if we can just trust it. And this is the reason why it's called trauma as a tool for change instead of trust as a tool for change. Because if we don't trust it, we don't trust it. And we can easily mistake that for coming from a place of, I don't trust this not happening, right? This is where a lot of people will say, yeah, it feels off, and I'm trusting my heart, I'm trusting my gut, I'm trusting my feelings. Whereas I would actually tell you to never trust your heart for a reason, because a lot of us think if I follow my heart, I'll be good. And there's truth to it, by the way. Were it not for the fact that our heart is not just the keeper of our soul, it is also the storage place for all our childhood pain. So our heart will also warn us for the place, and specifically when it comes to developmental trauma, our heart is the place where um, all the wounds of our past are stored. So if you follow your heart, now the question is, are you following the divine light that's stored there, or are you following all the childhood trauma that's stored there? And now the interesting question is, following your heart would actually be a brilliant idea if you wouldn't let the pain in your heart stop you all the time. But if you would let the pain in your heart rip open all those places where more of you can be revealed. That way of following your heart's a great way. But I see so many people out there are constantly saying, it doesn't feel right, so I'm not doing it. I was speaking at this Nomad Base conference last week, and a lot of people said, yeah, but I chose freedom. And I said during my workshop, that's beautiful. I absolutely love people who choose freedom. I am all about freedom. But there's one thing we need to know about freedom, specifically when it comes to a nomadic lifestyle, and that is it's not a choice unless you can also choose the other side. And I was having conversations with people who said, yeah, but I chose this. And I said, that's beautiful. Could you choose to stay in one home base though? And they said, I don't want to. And I said, that wasn't the question. Whether you want to or not is fine. Could you choose to stay in a home base? They said, no, I can't. But that's not the point. And I said, the fact that you can't is exactly the point. That makes it not a choice anymore. And I know what I'm talking about because I had a very different kind of nomadic lifestyle than they had. They live in a camper van and move from place to place. I just moved from house to house and I stayed in every house a year or two or something, sometimes a little bit more, but I moved 12 times in 30 years. And I was out at sea 4 to 5 months a year. So I know what it feels like to constantly move and move and move and move. And I couldn't choose to stay in one place because of all the triggers until I had a baby and I met you. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to allow myself to give up on this. I'm choosing this. That means if I choose this, it means to choose all the pain that comes with it and all the trauma and all the fear and all the anxiety that I have about people, about men, about all my emotions. Now, the first years of being with you and staying in that place, I blamed the neighbors for ruining my life. I blamed the street. I blamed you. I blamed everything. And I knew that wasn't the problem. I knew what was the problem was what was being triggered in me. And I knew if I wanted full capacity of choice in my life, I had to face all of that trauma that was ripped open in me. But that is when we follow our heart, we also need to allow that heart to show us and reveal us where we don't want to change. Does that make sense?
So it's about the heart. So you said you cannot say I trust my feelings uh, when that is only a kind of reaction from the pain that's stored in your heart.
Yes.
But the trauma is as well, it's the same source. So there might be some steps in between before trauma becomes a tool of trust instead of the feelings that bring you to another place you don't want because it's bringing you to your fears.
Yes. Yeah, and the way you put it, yeah, because the interesting thing is there's a deeper layer that we need to trust. There's a deeper layer. So we will never allow this fear and this thing, because you said it so beautifully. You said to allow to the things we don't want. This is not about wanting. This is about knowing this is my path. I know it is my path to reveal the light of God in this planet that is coming through me. That's not only going to be from the places that I want or don't want, that I like or don't like, because what I like or don't like or want or don't want, and I tried, believe me, I tried, that is not life. Because what I like or don't like has everything to do with me constantly running away from people, constantly running away from places, constantly needing to move because I didn't have a choice to stay. And I knew one thing very early on, and that is that if I want to reveal everything that I am here to reveal in this life, it has to be bigger than what I like or don't like, what I want or don't want. It has to be about me devoting myself to a path that I'm on and not constantly letting that thing that is flowing me disrupt it. If I would say it in a metaphor of ships, so I'm a sailor. If you haven't, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you might not know that I'm a sailor and a shipbuilder. And there is a saying, two sayings actually. One is and I hear this a lot. A ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are made for. That's actually a bullshit saying. A ship is not made, is not safe in the harbor. A ship is just not safe in the harbor. People think that a ship is safer in the harbor, but it's not what it's made for. No, a ship is actually safer out at sea. A ship is built for sea. People might not feel safe at sea, but your ship is actually extremely safe out at sea. You might get scared there. That's fine. You can deal with your fear. The ship is extremely unsafe in the harbor. So the whole idea, I'm going to stay safe in my harbor and stay here. Yeah, your ship is actually completely unsafe there. Here's why. If there's a storm, the ship will be pulled up and be damaged along the quay. It will be ripped open. It lost all its ability to stay afloat in the harbor with all the other ships around. A lot more damage happens in the harbor than out at sea. So if we take this sailing metaphor, you need to leave the harbor in order to be safe. But for people, we have learned that we're extremely safe amongst each other, looking at each other, feeling there. Yeah, except if we want
That looks
to,
like a stable situation, stability.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I have been a sailor all my life, and I know that we're not safer in the harbor. And I've used that metaphor myself constantly, thinking, okay, if I think I am safer in this harbor, then what am I running away from? I'm running away from what I'm supposed to be doing on this ship, which is out at sea. Um, yeah, so I knew from a very young age on that if I want to bring the light of God that is flowing through me into this life, I need to leave the harbor, go out into the sea. I knew that. If that's scary, then that's a fear that's going to help me develop the internal vessel of me that can deal with the external vessel of the ship that I'm sailing on.
I, li-
If
I
the
like I
yeah,
like the word devotion you used because
yeah,
uh, lots of people I speak and I speak them because of they saw your webinars or your workshop or just saw you somewhere and they are entrepreneurs or want to be an entrepreneur and they say yeah I have everything in place but it doesn't work yet and I don't know why and I ask them questions and how do you do this and how do you do your marketing and your acquisition and then a lot of people I speak in this is yeah I don't like that kind of work. I don't like to convince people to come to my offer or so and that's I think that's a lot of difference. Is it are you devoted? Is it really
yes,
your life mission to bring your offer so that people are really helped out in their situation,
yes.
or is it just your work and it should be nice and it should be pleasant?
Yeah, and that reminds me of it. We need to devote ourselves to the path that we're on. We need to devote ourselves to the people that we're here to serve. We need to devote ourselves to what God wants from us in this life. We need to devote ourselves to what it is that is wanting to be revealed through our path on this planet.
And
And
it
if we,
looks oh sorry
no,
yeah
go ahead.
it looks like the effect of the devotion is something the opposite then it looks like for me devotion also sounds like it's a heavy duty it's really offering your life to it but when you were telling the story about your road trip to the south of Spain, it was the other way around because of your devotion to your mission and to your yeah calling. Uh, you stayed just quiet and were
Yeah.
just with it. Uh, didn't sound like you were mad or frustrated or um, having any fears.
No.
While our son Benjamin was, yeah, still young and have not that much life experience yet.
Yeah.
It's really yeah, frustrated about not going ahead. And so the goals, um, yeah, so I see a lot of people. I saw myself some eras ago always trying to set goals to keep on track for my career and try to know which skills I should have, which things I should have done, which experiences. And I set goals and then worked hard. But it was always like while busy trying to reach these goals, I was already on the situation had changed. The world around me changed so suddenly that it felt like the goals were not even uh, useful anymore.
Yes.
So that's really frustrating, and I see a lot of people do those things, um, going for the goals and being very frustrated about change in their situation or the general situation.
Yeah, if you do it that way, it feels like life is always obstructing your path.
Yeah, you're always behind. You're always
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful example. I see it a lot. I have had the fortune, and at the time it didn't really feel like fortune, but I had the fortune in hindsight that when I was 21, my boyfriend got hit by a car and he ended up in a coma with severe brain damage. And that disrupted my entire studies. Now, I've had a lot of disruptions before that too, but this disruption felt like, okay, no matter what I do, life is going to be unpredictable anyway. Now, life was always unpredictable for me from a very young age
for everyone, I guess, but
for
th-
everyone. Yeah, but every time I thought, now I understand something, I applied to the army, they refused. That was my life goal. Then I was going to go to a shipbuilding school where I would learn to build ships, wooden boats. I was rejected there because of my back. So every single time I set a goal, life said, no, no, no. Then I started to study shipbuilding in university. My boyfriend got hit by a car. I was out of school for a year. At a certain point, that experiment there taught me no matter what I do, life is going to change. What I learned to do from that is to stop fighting life and to start being interested and curious about life and to start allowing life to pull me in a direction. That was not immediate because at 23 I was suicidal, right? So so this is a lesson in hindsight, looking back. I didn't have these words or any of these ideas around it, but I gave up on needing to control life. Now, at the time, that looked like I give up. I don't know anymore. And I literally still have that journal entry where I said, God, I give up. Tell me your plan. It took me 2 years to find the plan, or 4 years, I would actually say. It took me 4 years to find that plan. But in those 4 years, in hindsight, what I've been doing is I've been allowing God to tell me what the fuck is the plan for this life because I'm not seeing it, I'm not getting it. These are the journal entries that I had at that point. I don't understand this. I don't see this path. I don't understand what the fuck we're doing here. You better have an answer for me because otherwise I'm out. And I got an answer. And the answer was, you're here to reveal me. I didn't have a clue what that meant. Starting to see glimpses of what that might mean. Took me 25 years to even understand what revealing God would even mean. Because what is that? My whole family doesn't believe in God. They call themselves atheists. I would say atheism is something else, but maybe they are, maybe they are not. That's for them to say. But using the word God, well, maybe in the past year I started to use it occasionally. I'm studying theology now for a reason, but it took me years. But devotion and being on your path means allowing the path to pull you and trusting that the path is giving you all the information you need in order to deal with the trauma, in order to deal with change, in order to build an internal vessel. I thought I studied shipbuilding to build real metal vessels. Turns out I studied shipbuilding to build internal vessels so that people can thrive on change. Still shipbuilding, still real ships, but it's a different kind of vessel that I've learned to build. Can we trust it? Or do we need to see, like most people see me, oh, you studied shipbuilding. Well, you made a change in your life. No, I did not. I'm still using it every single day in a very different way. So, can we devote ourselves to the fact that we're apparently here for a reason because otherwise we wouldn't be here? Can we devote ourselves to the daily revelation of, I woke up this day. So apparently there's something here for me. There's something here for me to learn, and there's something here for me to share. Apparently, I'm necessary. I'm needed in this life. So when you said, and I love that, you said there are so many people who are trying to build a business and trying to devote themselves to certain steps that somebody tells them so that they will now finally begin to make something work in their life. To me, that's not devotion. That's us trying to be somebody. Devotion means letting go of trying to be somebody and knowing that you are someone. And it's a different kind of devotion. Devotion starts when it doesn't have to be about you anymore.
So
Where, yeah,
I'm going to interrupt you because
please.
I think um, maybe people listen and think, oh, I know how to work on my own trauma, or I want to know how to manage with people with trauma. And I would say, okay, the kind of the level of trust you describe here, it's on such a level. So what's the road from trauma to trust? Because this is for me still the other way around. So coming from trust and being moved by it through life, but as I was traumatized myself, maybe not that severely, but I didn't have the trust for most of my life. So which
And
steps are needed?
the 7 steps, and then you're fixed. So the
Not
interesting
to
thing,
devote to those steps, but to the transition of from trauma to trust. It's really triggering me. It's always
so I would say the most important thing is to accept where you are. So
even
most people,
if you're
well,
scary and
not even, especially. Most people and most therapists and most coaches are very willing and trying, but we're all trying to fix something, fix somebody, fix a problem. Once it's fixed, then, right? There's this whole saying of, we'll just peel away all the layers of the onion. Yeah, and then what? then we're naked out there.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left. Yeah, or now there is an open space. Yeah, except in that open space, you haven't learned yet to find your voice. So then you're in an open space without a voice. That's the scariest thing you can do. So, what I have done, looking back at my life, is to fully accept where I am. You're not broken. You might feel broken. You might feel a lot of fear. You might have a lot of things that you're not able to do. That's fine. Can you completely trust and accept, and not just, I accept myself, but I want to change? That's a different kind of acceptance, right? A lot of people will say, I can accept it. How do I move forward? Yeah, that's kind of like, I know I'm in a car. I need the gas pedal. Can you just be in the car for a moment? Can you fully say yes to this moment? It's not about accepting it, it's about saying yes to it.
Can I translate it for something I can
Please.
really? Um, so I would say for me the most essential step was to devote myself to the truth of
Yeah,
who I was or how I was and still am, or every moment again, to be devoted to the truth of how I feel right now with all there is and not
yeah.
with all I wish there was.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. And it's, and what you're saying, I'm just going to translate it a little bit further, even because it's allowing yourself to be. So, one of the things that you once shared with me is that you thought you had to love certain people and you discovered that you actually didn't. And instead of being ashamed about it, you allowed yourself to not love them.
Because
And
that's how it was in
that's
real,
how it is.
in
Exactly.
yeah, for real. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is exactly that's exactly the right thing. When my boyfriend got hit by a car, my first instinct was, I don't want this to have happened. We need to fix him and we need to get there. And at a certain point, I realized what doesn't matter if I like it or not. This is what's going on. So I need to allow the situation to be completely the way it is. Because if I don't allow it, there's no place to go from here. I need to completely be okay with whatever life is bringing to me, because not being okay with it is just telling myself that I am not where I am. And that's going to create an internal friction that I'm not able to deal with. So it's going to be a lot easier to just say, well, so very simple, translated into kind of human language. Um, he was hit by a car, and people said to me, well, that's the worst thing that could have happened. And I said, I don't know. It happened. But are you able to deal with it? I'm not sure, but it is what it is. I don't need to like it. I don't need, in order to accept it, I don't need to want this to have happened. It happened. And if it happened, I need to accept it. Because if I don't accept it, I'm using all my energy to fight it. And it happened. So if I now use all my energy to fight it, then I'm not going to get through. So all I can do in this moment is fully accept it and allow myself to just get up every morning and see what this day requires from me. That's all I can do.
Yeah, you called acceptance, and I get what you mean, and I think that's a good thing to do. But um, I think for a long time it was for me a word I didn't wanted to want to I didn't want to go with, because so first I had to accept the word acceptance maybe. So
Oh, you
but
say
I
this
would say
beautifully.
it's even stronger when you could say, okay, I don't only not only I accept the truth to be true, but I devote myself to the truth, make it more
Yes,
important than everything I could want or I could wish for, because
yes,
all the things I wish for, they are not here. So
yes.
why should I be with it?
Well, the interesting thing is the way you said it. I loved it. You said, I don't want them to happen, or I don't want this. So often people say, I can't accept this. What's happening in life now is unacceptable. Well, whether it's unacceptable or not, it's happening. So a lot of people will say, I can't deal with this. Well, is it a can't or a won't? And this is very important to understand. Can you not accept it, or will you not accept it? This is a crucial thing, because if I would put a gun to your head and say, you have to accept this or I'll blow your brains out, then you probably said, well, if the alternative is death, they'll, well, yeah, sure, then I could accept it. Because most people won't choose death over accepting something. Now, this is, of course, never going to happen, but this is really interesting to understand. Can you not accept it? Is it unacceptable? Or will you not allow yourself to accept it? This is a crucial difference, because if we are all of a sudden understanding, oh, wait a minute, don't want to accept it, then we have our willpower back. This is the quickest way to get your willpower back. Can I really not do it? Well, if there was a gun to my head, maybe I could. Ah, interesting. So now I have to see that I don't want to accept it. And then you can look at, okay, is this something that I want to learn, or that I have to face anyway, like the brain damage of my boyfriend after the car crash? I cannot want to accept it, but that's not going to help. I need to accept it. Okay. So, like the power blackout in Spain, I could resist it. That's not going to help. Okay. So, if there's nothing I can do about it, then I need to learn to trust it. And if there's something I can do about it and I want to do about it, then I can do it. So, you ask for steps. First step, is it a can't or a won't? Okay. If it's a can't, a true can't, like with a
You're
gun
not
to my
in the
head, I
power.
couldn't,
Yeah.
then yeah. And then if there's a won't, okay, is it fightable or is it actually not fightable? And if it's not fightable, but in both cases require devotion. Both cases require devotion,
The mo-
because
oh, yeah, okay, go on.
either you devote yourself to uncovering what you can do, or you devote yourself to letting God reveal his plan. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think Um, I wish that I could devote to the truth in in any situation, because there are still lots of situations that I get angry, or that I really don't want to uh, to see what's happening. I don't want to experience this. So there are some situations where I can devote myself to the truth, and some where I still can't. But what I see is that a lot of those things you don't want to accept in life, or more in general, not especially me, but people, is about what others think about them. So their reputation, their image, their
Yes,
image of themselves, or the position they want to be in
yes,
society. And that's
yes,
even more sad, I think, because then
Well, this is actually where trauma is a tool for change, because the interesting thing is we have identified in the first 27 years of our life with who we are. We are identified with the survival part of us, and this is where developmental trauma comes in, right? Where we have learned to identify with um, a nervous system that isn't able to deal with big emotions, that isn't able to deal with grief, that isn't able to deal with parents who are not doing the right thing. So we've learned to identify with, I can't deal with these situations. I don't want to. I can't do it. Now, the interesting thing is, we've built an identity, which we call an ego, that doesn't have the ability to deal with it. Now, the interesting thing is, if you want to bring and reveal the light of God in this life, we need to see that as, but if I am here to reveal God in this life, then I should, in those moments where it feels like, I don't want to do this because who will I be if I do? That is where we need to look at and be curious and get interested in, I am making myself more important than God is. That is actually false idolatry, right? This is where we're worshiping a false God, where we're worshiping money, where we're worshiping our success, where we're worshiping who we are, where we're worshiping status, where we're worshiping our goals, where we're worshiping what other people will think of us, where we're worshiping false gods. Now, if you want to fully use your full potential in this life, then actually all these places where you're accidentally worshiping false gods in the name of success and ego and money and friendships and what people think of you, you can actually reveal a lot of trauma and change into um, the person that is able to bring the gifts that you are here to bring in this life. Now, I have this image that I am here to bring something that will always disrupt certain people. I have the image that all of us are here to bring something that's not going to be liked by more than 1% of the people. Now, if what I am here to bring is never going to be liked by more than 1% of the people, I better be able to face a lot of rejection. I better build a vessel that is so strong that it is not my self image that will be broken or crushed. I better be bigger than that. I better have a vessel that is able to fully ride the sea without needing any karma cookies to get there. I better use all these little triggers as a force of change inside of me, because otherwise I might as well become a housewife and not a lot will come from that because I'm not a very good housewife.
so yeah, so rejection is part of being authentic. I would translate this,
Yes,
um, but rejection in your childhood might be the cause of not wanting to be rejected anymore in life or trying to
yes,
avoid it. So not being
yes,
recognized, not being seen by your parents as a
yes,
baby or a young child.
yes,
So it's also always the turnaround again that you do the opposite of what you tend to do if you're very traumatized.
yes.
So it's very counterintuitive to work with your trauma or work with somebody else's trauma.
Yeah, because the last thing we need to do is fix the other person.
Hmm.
What we need to do is, while we are with a person who is traumatized, fix ourselves while we're in the room. So, this is where we come to a place of, if life is triggering you, don't fix the triggers. Go to a person who doesn't have these triggers and stand in their vicinity so that their nervous system will be a good mirror for yours. That means that that could be a therapist. By all means, choose a decent one, but choose one who's able to deal with their own triggers and who doesn't need you to fix yourself, but who's just there as a beautiful person.
Could I translate it as that the one with the trauma has to have the experience that he or she will not die when
Exactly.
he is experiencing the situation he's afraid of
Yes. Exactly.
and try
Yes.
to avoid when
Exactly.
he's not avoiding anymore and still survive.
Yeah, totally. There is something that I absolutely need to do, guys, and I never do this during the podcast. I need to go to the bathroom and I need to do it right now. So I'm going to leave you with Yakko for 1 minute and I'll be right back.
So um, yeah, this reminds me to a lot of situations in my own life, of course. Um, and in hindsight, I see so much things that I used to do to hold myself back and be not visible because of fear of rejection or rage or other things. And I can see that it was really not helping to come alive at first, but also even making life worse because of um, being such a. So it looks like what you're, what you're, what you fear in life is coming to you in a way.
Yes. And the interesting thing is, the way you just described it is like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. I want to get this out of my life. I want to get away from it. Whereas life will constantly bring it back to you because life wants you to change. Now, a lot of people will say the universe will bring that to you. I'm not so sure about it, but what I am sure about one thing is that our brain filters and our brain centers want to develop. They want to. So they will constantly show us where the next step is in our development. And we will constantly recognize those situations because our soul actually wants us to develop into a stable person. God wants us to fulfill our full potential. So we will constantly be confronted with situations where we can heal. Now, the interesting thing is, a lot of people say,
And like you're saying,
yeah,
if you don't challenge yourself, life will do this for you, or
exactly.
something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
if you don't challenge yourself, life will bring you the challenges. The interesting thing is, a lot of people say, well, I'm praying for help and I'm not getting it. Well, probably you are, but you're not recognizing it. If we I pray every morning, and if I pray, I don't expect God to do it for me. A lot of people will tell me, what is this with this God and his wars, and then why would God allow this planet to be disrupted? God is giving us everything we need in order to face our challenges. I don't like many things that are going on in the world right now, but I do recognize one thing, and that is that without all these things in the world, I wouldn't show up. All the challenges in the world right now are all opportunities that are gifting me that I am embracing my full power and showing up. If the world didn't need me, I wouldn't do that. Every single thing in my life has been an answer to a prayer from a place of, holy fuck, I wanted God to give me strength. I didn't want to build it. Holy fuck, I wanted someone to love me. I didn't want to love myself. I wanted love, and God threw me you. And I thought I was supposed to find a husband who was loving me. I didn't know that I had to find a husband who would show me how to love myself.
Yeah. So it looks like um, a lot of people hope God will be their parent they didn't have when they
Exactly.
needed one, and
Yes.
and God is not your parent, but God is you. You have to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a God force flowing through us and a devil force flowing through us. And these are not two creatures somewhere in the clouds running our lives for us. No, they're forces inside of us. What voice are you listening to? And that's very hard to determine. But life is giving you exactly the situations that you need in order to change the internal vessel, in order to flow into the God force more and more and more and more. Now, trauma is the best tool that you could possibly have because trauma is constantly allowing you to find situations where your brain centers will grow through. It's not an easy path. I know. It would have been perfect if my parents would have been different. But I see so many people saying, well, the fact that I am this way now is because of my mom. No, you know what? It's because of your mom, your life is. She birthed you, she put you on this planet. Whether you like it or not, you're here. It's not my parents' fault that I was traumatized, it's their fault that I'm alive. And yeah, they did a lot of things wrong, but guess what? That was my life path. A lot of things happened that shouldn't have happened. I get it. I know. With all of us. But trying to fix that path is not going to change anything. What's going to change is looking at all those places where I actually am functioning like a decent human being and growing those, building a stronger vessel, and letting all the places where I am terrified reveal to me where there's more strength to be built. Letting all these places inside of me where I am feeling like I don't know if I can deal with this to share me places where I actually could learn to deal with life in a better way. Now, if we don't want all these trauma to be triggered, we can't change. Trauma is the best tool we have. It's the best compass we have. It's the best navigation tool we have because we're here to be able to deal with all of life, meaning that all the places where we feel we can't are places that we need to uncover.
I've just one last question before we stop, and that's
Yes.
the way you talk about how's life meant to be, or could be if you follow this path that is brought to you by what happens in your life, and doesn't matter if you think this is God acting or not, but it's very different from the life, the careless, the illusion of a careless life you could have when everything is in place and it's stable, and you have your income and you have your health and your loving kids and everything. So I think we are really in a commercial that that's what life's about, to have a careless life and everything is in place.
Yeah,
So
and then if it's not in place, then there's somebody to blame.
yeah,
It's
or you're having bad luck, but that's not that. It's meant to be because you have to learn something in life. It's a very different life view. Life.
life perspective. Yeah. Well, the thing is, same thing actually. I can say it should have been different. Yeah, that's not going to help me. And I don't see so many people, rich or poor, good background or bad background, who don't have struggles. And we're here to reveal God through our life. So I spoke to somebody last week in the Nomad Base seminar. He said, "Yeah, but I fixed everything. I have enough money for the rest of my life." He was in his 30s. He said, "I have enough money for the rest of my life. I have all my problems fixed. I literally sit on the beach for 10 hours a day doing absolutely nothing, enjoying life. I am done." And I said to him, but isn't that where the fun starts? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you can sit on the beach for the next 60 years, or now you could share what you're learning on that beach. In even if you just share it with one person every day, now you get to expand your vessel. And he said, you're not going to talk me into having any more problems. And I said, I didn't mean it that way. I mean that all of us are here to expand and to grow and to reveal God. I'm not telling you that you need to reach 8 million people. I don't know if you need to. For some people, it's 8 million people. For others, it's a seagull over sea. But this is where the fun starts. But all of life is here to help us share of who we are and not to receive a lot so that now we can be happy. So what you're um, looking at is, yeah, but I need to have all my problems fixed and then I'm fixed and then I can care less. Well, first of all, it's never going to happen because of other people, because of other people disrupting that all the time,
Hmm.
throwing out a war, over writing a new government, rules, legislations. And we can't just kill all of them.
But
And even
what
if,
what I mean is that when we're watching TV or the internet, whatever, it looks like it's one big commercial to have this careless
yeah,
life. So
yeah,
we are promised the illusion every day, again and again and again and again. So I think that's really hard for people, young people especially, who really
it
expect that
is.
life at a certain point will be better and better and better ever and ever, and there will not be any problems anymore. So they experience every problem or struggle they meet as, oh, now I'm done, and now it's everything is out of place.
And I
So
think that's
so
what we're going to, yeah,
so I think next time,
this is for next week.
yes.
Guys, next week, we're going to talk about the struggle of what the world is placing on our plate and what life should really be about around the struggle of a promised life and how we can just live our path versus what society is putting on our plate. Guys, I really enjoyed this conversation big time. We are going to take it on next week. We're 3 minutes over time, which is not a big problem, I think, but we're not going to extend your time too much. I hope you have an amazing time. If you have any questions, comments, things you want to leave us with, by all means, please share that with us. Share this show with all the people you like. Comment, rate it on Spotify, on your favorite podcast app. And we can't wait to see you next time. Bye.
Bye.